Hey guys, it's TRIZE here, back with Automation, the car company Tycoon game, and what you're seeing right now is one of my latest builds called the Alpha Hangover Twin-Charged. This vehicle, heavily based on the Range Rover Classic, is a powerful SUV with a turbocharger and supercharger combined. To make this twin-charged, I built a turbo engine in Automation and downloaded a supercharger intake file provided by Filmin86 and placed it on this car. Now I can make it more powerful than ever before compared to using a regular turbocharged engine. Anyways, I'll explain the details of this car throughout this portion of the video. It has a lap time of 1 minute 38 seconds, 42 milliseconds at the quote-unquote top gear test track and 2 minutes 42 seconds, 20 milliseconds at the Automation track. It has a top speed of 141 miles per hour at a 0 to 60 in 7.74 seconds. This vehicle is powered by a 4.5 liter V8 engine that produces 270.6 horsepower and 280.6 pounds-feet of torque. It has a fuel efficiency rating of 8.6 miles per gallon and weighs 3,977.5 pounds, which equals to 1,804.2 kilograms. And now let's go over the specs of this vehicle. In terms of how I made the Alpha Hangover, the twin-charged variant, the panel material will be made out of regular old steel with a monocoque chassis made out of galvanized steel. With a front longitudinal engine placement, and the front suspension we're using is a McPherson strut, and the rear suspension we're using is a basic but somewhat overrated and overused solid axle coil suspension, especially for an early 90s SUV made back in 1991. So for the engine, it's for automation only in terms of like the power and everything. So it's a V9 degree V8 engine made out of aluminum with the bore set to 96.0 millimeters, and the stroke is set at a 77.5 millimeters, which gets the engine size to 4,488 cubic centimeters, or rounded up will equal to 4.5 liters. And we're using some push rod headers made out of aluminum. For the balance shaft, we're using a harmonic damper to reduce the chance of the crankshaft of exploding due to high RPM and torque stress. So for the crank counters and pistons, all this good stuff, so starting with the crank, we're using good old forged steel crankshaft with the counter rod set to a regular cast, and the piston is set to a hyper-eutectic cast to reduce emissions, and surprisingly with the graph here, compared to like regular cast pistons, you about lose a full horsepower right there compared to hyper-eutectic cast. It's kind of interesting how pistons in the game here, with the 4.2 open beta version of Automation, that pistons do affect the power of the vehicle. Unlike before, like forged pistons, where you get the octane down by a whole freaking AKI. From an 88.6 to hyper-eutectic of an 89.6. It's already been like that for Automation, unlike nowadays. So for the compression, we're running on a slightly below normal setting because it's being turbocharged with an 8.0 to 1 ratio, with the cam profile set to a 44, and lastly the springs and lifters is set to a 58. For the turbocharger, we're running on a single turbo setup of a boost control system with the intercooler size set to 446 horsepower. And for the aspiration setup details, we're using a standard geometry ball bearing setup with the compressor size set to a 60.5 millimeters. The turbine, I set this quite, you can really see here, it's pretty small at a 38.2 millimeters. The AR compressor trim is set to a 30, and lastly for the maximum boost, it is set to a very low 7.3 PSI. For the fuel system, we're using a multi-point electronic fuel injector with a single throttle setup of a standard mid-intake running on premium fuel, with the fuel mixture set to a 14.3, the ignition timing set just one click up to a 51, and the RPM limit is set to a 6,000 RPM. And finally, for the exhaust and everything, so we're using some short cast headers, turbocharged short cast headers. We're only option a single exhaust because of it being single turboed, with the exhaust size set to a 63.5 millimeters, which equals to 2.5 inches. And we're using a 3-way catalytic converter. The first muffler is set at a none, but the second one we're using is a baffled muffler setup. And real briefly, let's give you here what this V8 turbocharged, non-supercharged, non-twin charge engine sounds like in Automation right now. Not a bad sounding engine, and second of all, for the power torque graph, the power band, this seems not too bad for a turbocharged engine. I mean, it kicks in around 1600 RPM, kind of gains, levels out, and drops around 5000, really drops down at 5000 RPM. It's a pretty damn good turbocharger setup we got going here. So on the second half portion of the vehicle, with the drive type, we're using a longitudinal 4x4 setup with a manual 5-speed with the top speed set to 163.4 miles per hour. This is set only just to get the higher top speed for BeamNG.drive once we add the twin charge setup by adding a supercharger, which I got set up to a screw supercharger that goes on top of the turbocharger for the intake system in BeamNG. Heading on with the tires, we're using some radial medium compound tires with the front and rear tire with each set to 225 millimeters, running on some 18-inch steel rims. For the brakes, they're pretty much what they're used for the Range Rover Classic. The front is a vented disc 3-piston with its size set, which you can barely see through this rim, is a 350 millimeters, and the rear is a solid disc single piston with its size set to 300 millimeters. Now for the aerodynamics, nothing, semi-quiet under tray, brake airflow to 20, nothing much. So for the interior, well finally, it's been a little while since I've done this, is that we finally got a full-blown interior setup. We got 2 front seats right here, and 3 in the back with a pretty semi-detailed but semi-janky interior that we got going here. I mean, you got your steering wheel, the Alpha logo badge, speedometer, some freaking janky placements of the buttons for your window controls, locks, all that good stuff because of the fixture placement that is originally provided. I want to do the indentation, but it's impossible to do it with this here door placard right here. So with the interior setting that I got going right here, we got ourselves a premium interior with a premium cassette player. And next for the driver's safety, all that good stuff, so a variable hydraulic power steering that we got going here with ABS brakes and advanced 1980s safety standards. And finally, for the rest of the vehicle with the suspension, we're using some progressive springs with gas mounted dampers and passive sway bars running on a normal preset with the ride height almost maxed out, so it's not like a freaking lowrider that we got going right here, which the game provided for this setup right here. Yeah. 369 millimeters is a little too low, so I did it at a 422 millimeters to the ride height to make it look more realistic. Despite the one and only problem that claims with this vehicle is some wheel spin issues, minor wheel spin, let's jump into BeamNG.drive to test our supercharged wannabe Range Rover out. So here I am at the bottom map of Los Angeles. So what the vehicle that we got here, I mean, taking a very super duper brief look, I mean, I got you a little bit in automation with the interior and everything. So with the exterior style on the vehicle, we can obviously see that we got the freaking name, the model name, Hangover, to pretty much make a pun out of Range Rover made by Land Rover. It pretty much says it for the rear and including for the front too, with the Alpha badge taking over the Land Rover badge like the real life classic Range Rovers did. So in terms of styling, try to make it look like the Range Rover. I mean, with the headlights being almost spot on everything, included a little fog lamps like some Range Rovers did, had fog lamps with some grills attached right here. The front looks pretty spot on for a Range Rover, including the door handles that I got rolling right here. I mean, this looks very close to one, to be honest with you. So right now, let me hit Control W to bring up the parts menu and then click on the word engine, and under intake, let's choose the screw supercharger, which I got set up, including the tuning, which I'll throw that up in a second here. So that's loaded in. We also got the turbo and supercharger graph and the supercharger graph on the torque graph that we got here. So under tuning, I got this set up. So gear ratio to 1.5 and I think a 0.7 for the pressure 1000 RPM that I got going. Let me see. Alright, so I got the power band expanded out and everything so you can see every graph that we got going here. So let's first start off with the turbo and supercharger and the naturally aspirated variant of like what the power band would be like for this particular vehicle. So if I rev it up as so, let me slow this down and then try to redline it. We get the maximum power. Yeah, close enough. So 349-ish horsepower for the turbocharger and supercharger. If it would have been naturally aspirated, then we'd be making 132.5, 132.6 horsepower. Oh yeah, you can see the little slash here. So max power, 351 brake horsepower, turbocharged and supercharged. The max for naturally aspirated, 138. And as I expanded with the supercharger only and turbocharger only, the supercharger alone makes 188 horsepower, and the turbocharger itself makes 261 horsepower, pretty much what we got, but a little bit less than we got in automation. So yeah, compared to the turbocharger and the supercharger, about a 90 horsepower difference that we got in BeamNG.drive, so a considerable amount of performance with the twin charge setup compared to just being turbocharged, exhaust popping by itself. So let's go to highway to do our base performance test. So here I am at the top of the highway, which I basically just F7'd myself just like half a block over from the Simpsons house, which is one of the spawn points in the game. So for our 3 base performance tests, we're going to start off with the 0 to 62 acceleration test, followed by the 62 to 0 brake test, and lastly, a top speed run, which I guarantee you with a twin-charged engine, it should reach 160 miles per hour. If it had only been turbocharged, then no, it would have been pretty much impossible, but it would take too long to do so. But twin-charged, you'll see. So start off with the 0 to 62 with the twin-charged variant, and then without it. So with the twin-charged variant, let's get ready to go here in 3, 2, 1, go. Hasteful launch to first gear to second gear. Not too bad. In the second gear, we get 0 to 62 in 6.17 seconds at 309.94 feet. So we remove the supercharger, click on stock intake, and do it again. So 0 to 62 underway with the turbocharger itself at 11 psi, not 7 psi, are you kidding me? Okay, 0 to 62 at that one is 7.49 seconds to 379.07 feet. So about a 1.4 second difference between the two, I believe. So for our brake test, let's get that underway. So it's showing 60, now it's showing 62, so hit the brakes now. Brakes underway. And 62 to 0 in 2.77 seconds of 119.87 feet. For an SUV being 2 tons, this seems pretty good distance-wise and time-wise. I'm pretty much satisfied with the results. No fading, no lockups, just pure braking. So 0 to 62 underway, we get a slightly worse time of 6.28 seconds, 308.55 feet. Not too bad, so 100 miles an hour in 4th gear. And second of all, as I get a closer look at the vehicle, let's, how do I do this? Let's just turn around and give you a close look. Can you hear the supercharger? Not really, unfortunately. So go down a downhill, 130 miles an hour, into a little uphill, and we still got some straight road on the way. Nice balance, we kept it together. So we're going beyond the automation top speed of 141 miles per hour, but we're not there yet. We're getting close, 157, come on, 58, 59, 160. So we're pretty much at the top speed. Wait for it to redline, and then we'll crash at this bridge up ahead, and redline, 164 mile an hour redline, so let's just launch ourselves as is. 2 of our tires are missing into our roof, into the bridge pillar. 3 of our tires are missing as we still flip over, and we're pretty much on our side to just our side, not like on our only in one wheel. Engine start of oil. Let's get this to some flat land. Show you aftermath destruction of the vehicle. So what we got going on here, we got this tire free balling. If I accelerate, yeah, we can't get that tire to move. So 3 of our tires are missing. We got the car screwed up as so. If you look at the aftermath destruction of the vehicle, well, you can obviously tell our tires are missing, some body panels are going off, some freaking shanks going on here, the loose polygons, sharp polygons, but yeah, it held up pretty well, but still kind of a pile of mess. So in this upcoming part of the video, we're going to be jumping over to Small Island, USA on the Island Loop portion of this time trial with the Hangover Twin Charge variant, which I don't know if it'll work out doing so. If not, then I'll do the hot lap feature with the twin charge setup with the turbocharger and supercharger combined. And we're going to be doing 2 laps in the noon hours with this here track, so let's jump on over to the starting line right now. So unfortunately with the time trial feature of the game, I couldn't load the supercharged variant of this car, so I had to manually add it in free roam. So let's see what happens if I just go in by doing 2 laps as is in free roam, by going to free roam into a old time trial without doing the time trial menu, which I just showed you earlier. Alright, good. Island loop, course around the island. Let's get ready to start here in 3, 2, 1, rev it, go. Not too bad, and our boost, it's showing 16, 17. Okay, here we go. In the turbocharger, it showed 11 psi, and the twin charged showed around 17, and damn, we about lost like 2 or 3 times right there. Jesus. And we're about to lose it. Going off-road. Like a real goddamn Range Rover should. And we popped a tire, and we're facing the cliff, so take it slow next time. Alright, got through it, no problem. Got some bounciness going on with the suspension. Yeah, a little bit too much of a soft suspension for a normal setting. I should probably put this at, like, not necessarily a sports setting, but alright, keep going through here. Almost like borderline sports setting. Just stiffen up the springs a little bit to combat some of the bounciness, but not too hard to the point where we're bottoming out or making things less stable. Going wide. I thought those tunnels were going to grab the car, but fortunately it didn't, so took off the mirror. We're still alive. I was hoping it to be 100% clean, but unfortunately we pretty much made it somewhat dirty. Pretty dingy. The dingy of a run that we got going here. It'll be dirty if we lose a wheel, hardcore crash the car out, or whatever along those lines. Okay, high one there. God damn, it's probably the fastest I've ever been for this type of vehicle, just about flying off the ditch right there. So we're coming up to our first lap. where's our checkpoint? Oh, this is our final checkpoint into our first lap, I believe. Alright, so here's the checkpoint, and here's the first lap marker straight ahead. So we get a time of a 1 minute, 41 seconds, 669. That is a horrible number, milliseconds. Flip it over. But never lost a wheel. We did a wheelie, and we stalled the car out. Well, here we go, coming on the track again. Are we auto steering? Yeah, slightly to the left, very slightly to the left. I'm surprised at that type of impact. God damn. So let's brake here. No fading. Well, our brake temperatures, too much. Normally I have the brake temperatures in my bottom left, but I have to put that back on for my future time trial runs. For the regular time trial like menu setup, I do have the brake temperatures on the bottom, but going from free roam to time trial, I don't have the brake temperature set up, so I'll do that a little bit later. God damn, I just got yeeted by the bridge tunnel pillar thingamajig, and are we gonna flip on over? That was close. And it's very difficult to steer right. I'm just gonna continue as is. I'm not gonna restart. So, surprisingly, that grabbed the vehicle. Unlike before, it didn't, but now it did. Yeah, we're auto steering hard. I can hear the tires screeching as we auto steer. And as I clip the rock, Johnson, and way too damn fast. Hit her ass, and look at the frickin' suspension jiggle thanks to it being a solid axle. It is a new starter sound. Why does it frickin' stall? Just go into first gear without just slamming into first gear without putting the clutch in, for God's sake. It's like the frickin' gearbox of the game is like just shifting into first gear without putting the clutch in or something. So second lap time, way worse. Tap that in a 2 minutes 37 seconds, whatever milliseconds. Grind that like do a frickin' board slide as we flip over. And do all that stuff in slow motion automatically. So did I freaking board slide over the barrier or what? I didn't even see when the freaking UI like this got in my way. So real quickly, what would have been like if I make a clean run? Let's do this like mostly off camera. Alright, pretty kept it clean as possible. So we're gonna get a time of a 1 minute 37 seconds, whatever milliseconds for my second lap, which will get now my best time of a 3 minutes 17 seconds, 89 milliseconds. So a minute 2 seconds better than my first attempt. So let's just crash the barrier. Good job. Continue here. And I thought we were stuck inside the ground, but we're right here, so that's fine. So right now, let's jump on over to Brutal Slope 2.0 to really brutalize this vehicle being twin charged, just simply being twin charged. So let's spawn up there right now. So here I am at the top of the ramp here, so let's get ready to skateboard down as so. And second of all, as you can obviously hear with the shift, please. But we can obviously hear with the supercharger whining like a frickin' 1-year-old baby is that I pretty much maxed out the gear ratio per 1000 RPM, including the boost, just maxes out as so. So over rev damage, still screaming, 220, mount over rev, valve train damaged, engine's dead, 140 miles an hour at the bottom of the apex, and at the top, 180 miles an hour for our launch, and we're gonna do a frickin' flip, right? Engine start of oil. Nope, we're gonna recover as so, despite having a weak front lip at the front of vehicle. Let's slow things down and get a camera going. So 60 times slow-mo underway. There goes the front of vehicle. There goes a loose tire with a chunk of rubber coming off. So there goes the front of vehicle, some of the fixtures, including the license plate, the debris, all that good stuff. So full time. We're flipping over, hit our back end and our front end. Our roof, still flipping over. Here's some scrapiness for our fixtures is grinding on the ground as so, and we're gonna land on our roof. The engine is started of oil. Whatever. The engine's been dead since at the frickin' launch of the ramp, like pretty much near the bottom of the apex. So the vehicle, well, the rear seems okay, but once you get to the front, that's where things get really weird that we got going here. Same thing for the left side of the vehicle, and the rear, well, things have been deformed. And if you'd have been a driver, especially for the interior of the vehicle, if you'd have been in the UK or whatever that is left-hand drive, you're dead as a driver. A passenger, let's tell over to the passenger, you're also dead too. Back passengers, I doubt it. Okay, for the last part of the video, let's skateboard at the bottom of the ramp right here. Well, technically a hill, and get ready to crash ourselves at the wedge thingy, which is basically a square block to get an interesting wedge-shaped look of your vehicle. So here we go, redlining as so, redlining harder than a frickin' Dodge Challenger or Charger Hellcat, the Hellcat Red Eye, Demon, or insert his supercharged engine. There you Adam, you have nothing on this. There you go. Drifting. We're gonna go. Roof impact! Ooh, we're gonna get a roof impact. This is gonna be weird, folks. Let's 100 times slow this because I want to see what's going on here. So for a roof impact, not really a roof impact, but a 3/4 upside down impact. We got the tires, both tires on the ground. God damn, man, so 16. They're gonna rebound back, mainly the tires and sort of the body. And let's go to full time. There goes the other tire. Now, full time. Our tires are gone. Jesus Christ. There goes that tire in the distance, and we got this guy coming on our way down, so here he comes, Mr. Tire, and... Okay, that's very cringy, but whatever. I'm trying to prove a point because the tire hit the wall. F7 resets the vehicle? Are you kidding me? Normally, you have 7, it... God damn it. Alright, reenactment time. That was at the bottom of the vehicle, so let's just grab with the node grabbers and then yeet this down as so. So with the new update 0.25, F7 at somewheres resets the vehicle. Normally when you have 7 at somewheres, it just keeps the vehicle in a whatever state, a destroyed state, alive state, deceased state, whatever. And that really sucks. I don't know if you could change that now. So with the vehicle being a floorboard impact, instead of a roof impact, well, you could see the vehicle was mangled with the roof impact, and this impact being the floorboard bottom impact, basically, it's also messed up, as you can see right here. It sucks we can get that type of collision that I showed you earlier, but we got this one instead to show you the aftermath destruction. So, whatever. Now I know F7 resets the vehicle, like recovering the vehicle or whatever. So that'll do it with automation and BeamNG.drive with the Alpha Hangover Twin Charged. For it being a wannabe Range Rover, in terms of styling, I really do dig the styling. I mean, it pretty much looks like a Range Rover from the front end, the back end, and the interior. Well, it's just my creation, my own imagination. But at least this video does show you proof that you can turbocharge a vehicle. Not only just turbocharge, not only just supercharge with a mod you can download, but twin charger cars with a turbocharger and supercharger working together. And for those who are interested in this type of content, please be sure to like and subscribe so you won't miss out on any videos like this in the future. And also, check out my social media down in the description below. So this is TRIZE rising up and signing out.